My name's Emma. I'm a secondary school teacher. Up until this term, I've been in charge of our school's PSHE programme. So I've overseen what we teach, the topics we cover, both statutory and our optional topics as well. And as part of that, we've introduced the Sepsis Trust lessons in years 10 and upper 6th. So the Sepsis Trust lessons are to raise awareness of the signs and symptoms of sepsis, its prevalence, and how a fast reaction to somebody showing signs and symptoms can help save lives. It gives statistics on the number of people affected by sepsis and how you can contract sepsis from anything, from the slightest scratch to a common cold. And it helps people spot the sepsis signs, the shaking, the fever, the temperature, not passing urine, things like that. So the Sepsis Trust lessons come with videos, they come with slides for the teachers to go through with a teacher guide, and they have case studies for the students to look at, real life case studies for the students to look at and go through and look at both how it was contracted, how things could have been done differently if it wasn't spotted soon enough, and the positive outcomes when it was spotted soon enough. And they are mostly based on young people, so they're more relatable to the students. There was one who contracted sepsis at a festival, and their friends thought they just had a hangover, and it turned out to be quite different. But it comes with everything that you can need. They're flexible and adaptable, so you can choose to use certain videos or not, depending on the amount of time that's available in the lesson. It's got everything you need, and they are tailored to different age groups. So there's a Key Stage 3 and 4 one and a Key Stage 5 one, and we've used both with different year groups. As a teacher, getting something that is so fully resourced and is just ready to give and go is absolutely ideal. You couldn't ask for anything more. It makes it so easy to introduce those lessons. As the head of the PSHE programme, I give the materials to the form tutors for them to deliver. So for me to just be able to go, and here is the entire pack with your lesson plans, here are all the resources, here are all the links to the videos and the slides, here are the case studies printed out for you to hand around the class for them to discuss, off you go. It makes life so much easier. My mother has dementia. She was diagnosed about 10 years ago, and it's been a slow decline. But in the last year or so, she's been going to a day centre. And when I went to collect her from a day centre at the end of May, they said they'd noticed a rash on her lower leg that they thought was cellulitis and suggested taking her to the doctor the next day. I took her home. She was a bit shaky when she was eating her dinner, which we didn't think much of because she had hand tremors in the past as part of the dementia. By the time it came to bedtime, we tried to get her to go to bed, and she couldn't really stand or walk. When we tried to put her pyjamas on her, she was just running with sweat and was burning hot. And Dad commented that she hadn't been to the toilet in about 7 hours. She hadn't been to the toilet since she came home from a day centre, which was very unusual for her. At that point, I looked at the rash on her leg, and it had spread from just being around her ankle to being almost up to her knee. And that's the point at which I realised that all these signs added up to being the signs and symptoms of sepsis that I had read about in the lessons that we had delivered on sepsis. And at that point, I phoned 111, and they sent an emergency ambulance. My mum was hospitalised with sepsis caused by the cellulitis around her ankle. I actually knew the paramedic who came out and treated her. She was a member of our cricket club, and when I saw her down there a couple of weeks later, she was quite surprised that my mum actually made it home. I hadn't realised quite how ill she was, and didn't until she said that. But we got her to hospital at 2 a.m, and she was home 48 hours later. And we got her there just in time, it seems. If it wasn't for the lessons that the Sepsis Trust prepared, funded by Iceland, that we then delivered, I don't think I would have added those signs and symptoms together. My father was definitely all for just leaving it till the next morning and taking my mum to see the doctor. If it wasn't for what I'd read in those sepsis lessons and the sepsis awareness cards that we'd printed out and given to the students, I don't think I would have known what was going on, and I don't think my mum would still be here. As part of the Sepsis Trust lessons, not only are there the Z cards that you can print out for students that have all the symptoms on them that are perfectly sort of like tuck in the back of the phone or in a wallet size, there's also a letter prepared that we can send home to parents to say that we're teaching this and the students, so that they can have a conversation with the students afterwards. I think that despite the fact that there are all these signs up in hospitals these days saying, just ask, could it be sepsis? Not enough people are aware of what the signs and symptoms of sepsis are. So I think teaching these lessons in schools and using those resources and getting people to be more aware. As a teacher, you're aware that probably 90% of the class are listening to what you're teaching, and that probably 40% will remember it a week later. But even those small numbers, even if something residual just sticks in the minds of anyone that's listened to those lessons and helps them in future, it's got to be a good thing. I think all schools should be delivering these lessons. And I think that the resources the Sepsis Trust have prepared make it so easy for schools to do that. I think it should be something that awareness is raised about more widely, and everyone goes to school pretty much, so why not start there? So the fact that Iceland have put the money forward to fund and develop these lessons makes the world a better place, really. Because, as I said before, getting these lessons into schools and getting the awareness raised is really important. And for a company to step forward, as Iceland have done, and put the money forward to develop such comprehensive and easy to use lesson plans, it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I wish more companies did such great things with more charities. They may do, not that I'm aware of, but this is one of the more obvious ones. And I really love the fact that they are using their own money to make the public aware of something that could save so many lives. The Key Stage 3 to 4 ones are aged at students aged between 11 and 16, so school years 7 to 11. And the Key Stage 5 one is aimed at students in sixth form, so years 12 and 13, 17, 18. They're more focused on the resources in there include people at festivals and things like that, the real life situations they're likely to find themselves in. It's tailor-made it's very age appropriate. The examples and case studies used are well thought out for the age groups they're relevant to. And the Sepsis Trust have been brilliant to work with as well, because we were amongst the first schools to use and deliver these. So when I got them through and I had a look at them, I was able to feed back some suggestions, and the Sepsis Trust took them on board and came up with some different case studies for us, some more focused on boys, because a lot of the case studies were female. We didn't want to give the impression that it was only girls that got it. And the videos within them are also very relatable. They're young people playing sport. So it's all really tailor-made for the age groups it's aimed at. So when the lessons were delivered, we were very conscious of how the students responded to it, because we'd been asked by the Sepsis Trust as one of the first schools to deliver these lessons to just have a look at how they were received. And I spoke to some teachers that had taught the year groups the lesson after they'd had the Sepsis Trust lesson, and they said a lot of them came along talking about what they'd seen, what they'd heard, the signs and symptoms, reading through. They had to tell some of them to put their Z cards away and actually focus on what they were supposed to be doing in the lesson, because they were still busy reading them. So they were really well received by the students. The teachers that delivered them and the students that I spoke to said that they really liked the way the lesson had been put together with the video clips and the variety of activities. They were all really well thought out and really well researched. Getting the message about sepsis awareness across is really important. Everybody should be aware of the signs and symptoms. The Sepsis Trust are doing a great job, and they couldn't be doing the job that they're doing without the backing of Iceland. So thank you, Iceland. Thank you, Iceland, and thank you, Sepsis Trust, for helping deliver that message.